In this video, I will talk about measures of variation. We will talk about how to calculate the range of a data set as well as the variance and standard deviation of a population and of a sample. So the range is the difference between the maximum and minimum data entries in a data set. And the data must be quantitative. So to calculate the range, you take the maximum data value and you subtract off the minimum value. So let's go back to our example with the monthly salaries of a sample of 6 sales reps. We're going to calculate the range. So I've put the numbers in numerical order so you can see the minimum value as well as the maximum value. So we're going to take 13 minus 7 and we get 6. We get an answer of 6,000. Next, we're going to talk about standard deviation and variance. The standard deviation measures the variation of the data set about the mean and has the same units as the measure as the data set. The standard deviation is always greater than or equal to 0. When it's equal to 0, the data set has no variation and all the entries have the same value. This thing here, let me highlight that. This is a sigma, this is a Greek letter. In case you didn't know what this was, this indicates standard deviation. As the entries get farther from the mean, that is more spread out, the value of standard deviation increases. So to calculate the population variance and standard deviation, the first thing you're going to do is calculate the mean, and then you're going to subtract the mean off from each data set, each data value. Then you're going to square your answers, and then you're going to add them up. And with the population variance, you're going to divide by the total number of data entries in your data sets. So you divide by n. To get the population standard deviation, you're going to take the square root of the variance. So these are the formulas that right here if you wish to do it by hand. I'll also show you how to do it in my Excel template. So let's go back to our example. I know in the example it said it was a sample of 6 sales reps, but let's say that this company only had 6 reps. Those are the only people that work for the company. So now you got 6 people who work for the company. That's the entire population of this company. So these are the monthly salaries once again. So what we're going to do is we already know what the mean is. We calculated the mean before and we said it was 10. So what you're going to do is you're going to subtract 10 off from each one of these data values. As you can see, you get 1, 3, 0, negative 2, negative 3, and 1. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to square each one of those numbers. Okay? When you square the negative number, as you can see, it turns into a positive number. And then you're going to add these numbers up, the 190491, you get 24. Since we're dealing with a population, we're going to divide by the total number of data entries. In this case is 6. So 24 divided by 6 will give me a population variance of 4. To get the standard deviation, we're going to take the square root of 4, which is 2. So the population variance is 4 and the population standard deviation is 2 or 2,000. The sample variance and standard deviation is calculated a little bit, it's just a small difference. Instead of dividing by n, the total number of data values in your data set, you're going to divide by n minus 1. So same steps, you calculate the mean, subtract the mean off from each data value, square all the numbers and add them up and divide by n minus 1 for the sample variance. To get the sample standard deviation, you take the square root of the variance. So if we go back, and now let's say we have a company that has 30 people, but this time we took a sample of 6 sales reps. So you have to look at the words. If they tell you to calculate population, it's a different formula than if they tell you to calculate the sample. So in this case, now that we have n minus 1, we know our n is 6 because it's 6 sales reps. But n minus 1 will be 6 minus 1, which is 5. So we're going to divide by 5. So the sample variance will be 4.8 and the sample standard deviation will be approximately 2.19 or 2,190. So if we go ahead and put these numbers in our Excel template, and like I said, you don't have to use my template if you don't want to. You can do it by hand. As you can see, all of the numbers will populate over here in the yellow. I have two cells here for sample variance and sample standard deviation. That's what we got when we did it by hand, the 4.8 and the 2.19. The population variance and standard deviation is 4 and 2, which is what we got when we did it by hand. We also have the range here, and we said it was 6. And that's what we did when we did it by hand. So if you put your mouse over each one of these cells, it'll show you what command was used. Okay? If you look up here in this box, it'll show you. So for the first one, for the sample variance, you use var.s. The S stands for sample. Same thing for standard deviation. Standard deviation.s. For the population, it has a .p, var.p, and standard deviation.p. Once again, the range is the smallest value subtracted from the largest value. So it's max minus the min. And that's what you see in this box for the range. That's the end of this video.